What's going on, everybody? Lil Chris here, and in today's video I'd like to start a series that I'm calling Pool Talk. What I like to do in this series is discuss topics related to the game of pool and anything that is going on in the pool world. What I would really like to do with this series, though, is interview my fellow pool players that are comfortable enough to be able to sit in front of the camera and introduce themselves to the pool community through the YouTube community. So to start this series off, I'm going to begin with interviewing myself. Let's go. How long have I been playing pool and what got me started? Man, I'm currently 38 years old and I started when I was 17, so I've been playing pool for about 21 years now. When I first started, it was me and my best friend Roy. We would always go to the pool hall every weekend to play against one another. And at the time, he was a better pool player than me. Sometimes I would win, but the majority of the time, he'd end up being the winner. It wasn't until one weekend when I finally went there by myself, because he never showed up, and I saw there was a gentleman playing by himself, and he was playing on a 9-foot table. Whenever Roy and I would go, we'd always play on an 8-foot table. So I politely asked this gentleman if I can shoot pool with him, and he accepted, and I noticed that he was playing 9-ball though, and I didn't know how to play 9-ball at the time. Roy and I only ever played 8-ball. So after he explained the rules to me, I thought it was pretty simple. Shoot the balls in numerical order, and if you drop the 9, you win the game. We started playing, and when he shot a draw shot, as I watched that cue ball go forward, hit a ball, and then just all of a sudden take off backwards, I was literally floored. All I could do was look at him and go, how in the world did you do that? Because as an amateur pool player or just a casual recreational pool player, I didn't know that was even possible. And when he started to show me, I was like, there's a lot more to this game than I ever thought there could be, knowing that you can make the cue ball change directions like that. And it was that point that I was pretty much hooked. And I knew that I wanted to learn everything I possibly could about the game. And I guess what you would call my pool career pretty much started right after that. What's in my case? Well, that depends on which case you're asking about. Over the course of 21 years, I have shot with a variety of cues. Anything from your factory cues to custom cues, Josses, Muchis, Predators. I mean, you'd name it, I've almost had them at least at some point in time. But over those 21 years, I have actually quit a couple of times and sold everything. And then when I would come back, I would just have all new equipment. I've actually only been playing again for the past maybe 3 or 4 years. And when I came back again from a 3-year break, as you would call it, I got this case here. This is an in-stroke case that I picked up at a BCA state tournament. Prior to that, I just had a fairly cheap case, but I filled it with this cue here. This is a Sean STL 17. Everything's pretty much factory made on it. The weight is about 19.5 ounces. Diameter of the cue, I think, is 13 millimeters. And then I eventually got this to go along with it, the Predator BK3, to use as a breaking cue. Everything's factory made on this one. I do believe the weight on this one is also 19.5 ounces with the 13 millimeter shaft. And then the Predator Air 2 for any type of jump shots that I may have. Everything on this is factory made as well. I shot with this cue for a couple of years until I finally got this case here. Another in-stroke case. I just happened to buy this one online because I like the colors. Not only do I like the colors, it also matches the cues that I filled it with that I now currently shoot with. This is my Viking cue. This comes from the Millennium series that actually doesn't even exist anymore. They no longer print these cues, though I do believe this particular model is reprinted. Everything on this cue is factory set also, 19.5 ounces. I do believe it's a 13 millimeter shaft. And then I got this cue to go along with it, which is my jump break cue, also from the Millennium series. This is not factory though, because of the jump break conversion that it actually has on it, to where when I want to execute a jump shot, I can actually break apart a third piece. And I do believe the weight of the cue is actually 21 ounces. I only did that because those two cues actually have a history behind them. Maybe I'll share that in another video. But the two Viking cues are the cues that I shoot with now, and the Sean here pretty much stays at home for any of my pool lesson videos that I've actually been doing. Do I play in any tournaments or leagues? For tournaments, I haven't really played a whole lot of tournaments within these past couple of years, maybe a weekly tournament here and there in my local area. When I was younger, I played in a lot of tournaments, weekly tournaments. I would travel around Texas to play in some tournaments, anywhere from Austin to San Antonio to Dallas to Waco. Never really out of state, except for when I was out of state on business and I happened to find a pool hall that was having a tournament while I was there, and I would try to play in there. But here in 2019, I haven't really done a whole lot as far as tournaments are concerned, but I am hoping to change that, and I have already begun changing that, as recently some buddies of mine and I went to San Angelo for a tournament. We did okay. What actually happened in San Angelo is a whole nother story, but it started the trend again of getting back into tournament plays, and I'm hoping to keep that up for 2019, as well as compete in the Texas State Open this year, since it's been at least 2 years, I think, since the last time I tried playing in that event. For leagues, I am a BCA active member, Billiard Congress of America, and I'm also an active APA member, the Amateur Pool Player Association. I have tried playing NAPA, which I honestly do not know what the acronym stands for, but I didn't really like it all that much. The format was, I don't think, is actually designed for a player of my skill level. For BCA, my ranking on an 8-point scale is about 7 to 7.5, not so much of a perfect 8. But for APA 8-ball, I am a 7, and for APA 9-ball, I am a 9. And that is how our ranking system works here in the state of Texas. I'm not entirely sure if APA is the same across the United States. So yeah, those are the leagues that I still play in. I'm still very much an active member. And as you heard me say, where I got my first in-stroke case was a BCA state tournament, which I hope to attend this year also. Have I got a nickname? Funny enough, it's the name of my channel, Lil Chris. When I started playing in the tournaments at the pool hall that I grew up in, it turns out there were a lot of players named Chris. And funny enough, I was the shortest one of them all, standing at 5'5". Everybody else was just taller than that. We actually had another person named Chris who was 6'7". And we actually called him 6'7". But yeah, once that name was given to me, it pretty much stuck with it. Anytime someone asks, have you seen Chris or have you played Chris yet, they would always say, Lil Chris, so they would know exactly which person that they were talking about. And I've allowed it to grow on me and have been called that ever since. Any memorable moment that I would like to share? Wow. I actually have quite a few of them, but the one that I'd like to share the most with people is the first tournament that I ever won that actually had a considerable amount of money in it. I've never won a professional event that has like tens of thousands of dollars in it, and your weekly tournaments, they can have anywhere from like $50 to $100 as a prize pot. But this tournament in Waco that was held once a month, when I eventually won that tournament, it was almost about $1,000 that I won. I had gone to that tournament for quite a long time, every month when it would come around, and I would always go 2 and out. It was a double elimination tournament. The entry fee was $50, and they would have a player's auction, or what's called the Calcutta, where a player or a spectator could actually buy players that were in the tournament, and based on where that player got in the tournament, there would be a separate prize pot that the person who bought the player or the player themselves could actually win additional money. And that prize pot was based on how much money was actually bought per individual player. As I said, I had played for months and months and months, and would always go 2 and out, would never make it to the money. And that eventually was my reputation that I got when I started to get to know most of the players that would go there, because there'd be a lot of familiar faces every time that I would go. Until finally, on one particular month, I was getting better and better, because before this month actually occurred, I would not go 2 and out. I'd win maybe a couple of matches and then eventually get eliminated. I still never made it in the money until finally, one particular month, I went to the tournament. I paid my $50 entry fee, and then I bought myself in the Calcutta for $20. So I'm invested $70 in this tournament, and I went undefeated and won the entire tournament. If I remember correctly, I think the tournament prize pot was about $400, and the first place prize pot for the Calcutta money was about $450. So I walked out with $850, which was the most amount of money that I have ever won from a tournament ever, to this day, actually. There's been a couple of more tournaments since then that has a couple of hundreds of dollars in it, but not as much as that one has ever been. And it was a great feeling when I won that tournament. You go to a tournament so many times, and you try and try and try, and you always get eliminated. And at some point in time, you would think you would get discouraged and go, what's the point? Why continue to throw away your money like that? But I never gave up. And I was thankful that I never gave up, because finally on that one particular month, I finally won the tournament. And then a lot of my tournament winnings after that just kept on coming. Still, though, never as high as I did win that day in Waco. And that's a moment that I'll never forget. So that'll do it for this first episode of Pool Talk. As I mentioned before, I would really like to see if I can actually get some other individuals to sit down in front of the camera with me and allow me to interview them. I would pretty much ask them the same questions that I asked myself, and then as time goes by, maybe I'll be able to come up with some different questions that I could potentially ask. So if you actually feel interested and comfortable enough to do this with me, feel free to reach out to me, and we'll try to set something up to where we can record another episode to put on here. In the meantime, as far as questions go, I probably would like to have some feedback. So if you can think of any questions that you think would be good, generic questions that I could practically ask anybody, feel free to comment in the comment section below. But yeah, if you like this series and this idea that I'm going to try to do for this series, give it a thumbs up. And obviously, don't forget to subscribe. Hopefully, this series will actually take off like I would really want, and some people are actually going to be able to share this experience with me. In the meantime, take care, everybody.